Welcome back, everyone. Have you ever sensed that your DNA holds memories far beyond this lifetime? Today, we're exploring bio-spiritual anatomy, ancestral dynamics, and the evolution of human consciousness. You're going to want to stick around and watch this. So, everyone, I'm Dr. Joan Hangarter, also known as Joan of Angels. And for those of you tuning in, I actually met Neil back in 2011. I did readings at his very first major in-person live conference, which was great. 2011, we go back a ways. And from that moment on, we became friends, world travelers, and collaborators. And now, years later, I am honored to serve as the executive producer of the New Living Expo and to continue my mission, my sole purpose with Portal to Ascension. So life has a beautiful way, guys, of just giving you exactly and guiding you exactly to where you need to be. So now, for those of you who are new to me, I help people, especially women over 50 who are feeling stuck and off track, reconnect with their purpose, their mission. We help awaken your soul vision. We dissolve the patterns that are holding you back. We align you with the life you were truly born to lead. And if you're ready for clarity around your purpose, your gifts, and your next steps, I invite you to schedule your free soul vision consultation at joanofangels.com. All right. Now, take a deep breath, guys. Let's take a moment. We're going to connect with the larger mission. I'm about to play you a short video about the mystery cruise to Greece, and our special guest is going to actually be on this Greek cruise. We'll probably talk about it a little bit. And then after this video, we're going to play you the New Living Expo. And after that, you'll meet Geraldine Orozco. So stay with us, and we will be right back.
Portal to Ascension proudly presents the second annual conference at sea. Step aboard the Celebrity Infinity for Mystery School at Sea, an extraordinary 10-day voyage through the mystical lands of ancient Greece and Turkey, sailing from March 20th to 30th, 2026. Journey through the sacred sites of the ancients: Nafplio, Heraklion, Rhodes, Kavala, Thessaloniki, Ephesus, Athens, and more, where cosmic wisdom, lost civilizations, and divine knowledge converge. Featuring world-renowned authors, researchers, and channelers, guiding you into the deep memory of these sacred lands, unlocking past lives, sacred geometry, and the hidden consciousness of the ages. Immerse yourself in transformative lectures, hands-on workshops, and exclusive special events, each custom-tailored to help you remember that you are an initiate of the Mystery School. This isn't just a cruise, it's a portal to higher awareness, an awakening to the wisdom encoded in your soul. Are you ready to remember?
So very powerful. All right, and I'm going to play you the next one as well. So give me a second.
The world is changing faster than ever before, and within this evolution, a new consciousness is rising. At the New Living Expo, thousands gather to expand consciousness, explore new conscious technologies, ancient wisdom, and the future of human potential. Immerse yourself in 3 days of heart-expanding wisdom and mind-binding awareness, with over 90 speakers sharing tools to awaken your highest potential. 125 exhibitors, 3,000 attendees, awakened souls unite in one powerful weekend of learning, healing, and connection. Experience transformation, connection, and the next chapter of human evolution. It is time for humanity to awaken. Join us at newlivingexpo.com.
So powerful. It's true, guys. It's time for all of us to awaken, step into our next step, because the new living, the new earth is coming. So I hope you join us on the cruise. I hope you join us at New Living Expo, and I can't wait to see you all. So now today's guest is one of the most respected voices in consciousness studies and multidimensional healing. Geraldine Orozco is an international educator, researcher, and pioneer in the biospiritual anatomy. With a clinical background in hypnotherapy and trauma transformation, Geraldine specializes in the bioelectrical communication networks that shape cognition, behavior, and human evolution. Her DNA reprogramming method integrates epigenetics, ancestral lineage work, and multidimensional psychology to resolve patterns at their root. Through global presentations, training programs, and her work with the Academy of Light, Geraldine bridges neuroscience, quantum biology, and spiritual anthropology. She shows us how creative life force can be consciously cultivated to restore harmony and elevate human consciousness. And I know many of you know her from Portal to Ascension. So Geraldine, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Joan. It's so wonderful to be here.
It really is. It feels, like old times, old friends. It's so good to be really connecting with you again. And I'm excited to hear you're going to be on both the cruise and at the New Living Expo.
Yeah, it's so exciting. Amazing events. Amazing what you guys have done in these years. I mean, you guys are just incredible. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Well, it's mystery school, and it's the work that Neil has definitely taken on, and I'm always happy to kind of work with him. And you've taken it on. You've done phenomenal work, Geraldine. I have no idea what you're up to these days. So I suppose we could start with that. Like, what are you really up to these days?
Yeah, so I guess to make it short, I'm in the process of creating kind of a school, turning all this information into kind of an education portal where I'm focusing on the development of high-level intuition for children and for, humans, just in order to activate their higher faculties. And so I've been launching a lot of telepathy training courses and workshops, and weekly you just pop in and you practice your telepathic abilities, lucid dreaming, the cultivation of alchemy, higher alchemical processes as well. And just deepening the work into something that's practical and embodied. I think my main focus right now is embodiment. I'm almost done writing my book, which has taken many, many years to finish. I'm excited about that. And yeah, a lot of things are in the works, and I'll be sharing more about those, but lots of really wonderful things.
Well, when I went to your website, I saw that you were offering intuition training, telepathic work, telepathy, all sorts of exciting things. And I realized that seems like a new direction.
Yes, it's more of a focused direction because I think this is what's needed at this time as we're entering into this new era. It really is, we need to truly embody the higher faculties, and we need to practice them as if they're part of our survival toolkit, where before our survival was based on very primitive aspects of ourselves, fear-based concepts and the imbalance of the feminine masculine. We're now coming into the balance of that, which means we need to look at the whole person, the holistic aspect of what it is to be human. And that includes all our multidimensionality. So what does that look like? How do we cultivate that? And to get intuition, to get a refined intuition, we have to learn how to regulate the nervous system and, process all that trauma, those blockages that are kind of holding back how we see ourselves as humans, really, and to see ourselves as multidimensional. So that's kind of the focus right now.
Well, I think that's actually a really important focus because, first of all, things are happening and speeding up faster. I mean, I notice I have a thought, and within an hour, it's just a thought. I don't say it out loud. I have an email about that thought or promoting something about what I was thinking about. And I think that's talking about what you're talking about, this new expanded consciousness that seems to know ahead of time what we're thinking.
Yes, that's right. I think as we're moving into this new phase, we're going into period 9. This 2026 is year 1 of period 9. From now until 2027, we're moving through a transition of the activation of the lifting of the veil, but also, as you mentioned, things are speeding up faster. And that means that we're entering into a higher octave of frequency, which is moving life force in a rapid way in the body around us. And that allows us to expand, because the way that we function as a toroidal field, it allows us to expand into higher dimensions of ourselves. So all of the Akashic records, the information of our history, it's going to be rewritten. We're creating a new society now. All the old systems have to kind of crumble. And we are literally the embodiment of the new human, the new societies, and what that looks like. So it's a different frequency than honestly we've ever seen on the earth, in these last few cycles, actually. So it's an exciting time, and there's a lot to do right now.
Okay, I have chills. And so I get very excited when I get chills. Yes, you're so right. We're moving into a complete up leveling. And I'm thinking some of us are moving into the fifth dimension, even while we're in the third. And is that something you've been watching or noticing?
Yeah. Well, my humble perspective is that we're constantly moving in and out of dimensions, many dimensions, all the time, all of us. But in this new octave that we're entering into, think of the Fibonacci sequence. We're expanding into another band of that frequency. And so where before we were looking at the double strand DNA, then we were looking at, 4-strand DNA. Now we're taking a look at 12 and then 24-strand DNA. What does that mean? We're not talking about the physical strands of DNA multiplying, but the etheric aspect, the holographic system of information of the DNA is becoming more available to humanity. And so that's really uncovering the memory of what you are. We're moving through this phase of the amnesia is lifting. And that's a really huge thing, because we have to carry a lot of energy, a lot of information, how to balance that. It can be very overwhelming for a lot of people. And to ground that amount of frequency through the physical body requires some physical preparation, mental and emotional preparation. So those are the things that we're kind of preparing as we move into this higher octave, which is, many ranges. And some of us, like, me, you, and all of us on these channels that have been working so much to cultivate these, we're training a lot in dream state. And that's one of the things that I'm going to actually talk about on the cruise. When we go back to this ancient Greece and go back to the ancient mystery schools where all of this information had been taught for centuries, of the alchemical process of what does it look like to have a truly powerful human body that is multidimensional. That's what we are training now.
Wow. Okay. So you've actually really put this in perspective for me. And I hadn't really looked into, why is this all happening? Why am I suddenly more telepathic? Why are people receiving my messages and I'm getting theirs faster than the speed of light? I mean, in that way. And I hadn't looked at the implications. So you're saying we're moving into a new octave. What do you exactly mean by an octave?
Yeah, so imagine wave bands and wavelengths. They're moving in a certain wave. So at the lowest frequency, we have the most dense, which is the physical body. It's the crystallization of energy down to the bone structure of the body, and those wave bands are moving at a slower bandwidth. And so as we move into a higher band, you're looking at a really fast moving short waves of frequency. So if you can imagine, that will change a lot of things structurally in the body. It is less matter in terms of the resistance, because when we touch things, they're not really touching anything. It's just the resistance of those atoms that are creating the sensation of that repulsion that's happening, right? That separation. So we're kind of experiencing that, and we're now becoming multidimensional, where it's becoming energy. It's less dense and more of fluid energy. And so that's kind of what the physical body is also changing in that way. And so energy medicine, for example, will be one of the key things that we must understand very deeply. And because physical medicine, the way that we've been taught just to fix symptoms, just simply will not work anymore. It's really about working with the energetic system and aligning the body to be able to sustain those higher, shorter wave bands. That's kind of what we're really looking at here. And so entering into a higher octave is that energy moving faster. And so everything has to adjust to that. Everything has to adjust to that higher movement rate. So you can think of the cells of the body. Our bodies have already been preparing for that through, psychologically, metaphorically, symbolically, through many, many years already, we're preparing for that incrementally, and so now that the veil is becoming even more thin, so as we enter into this new octave, the concept of the veil thinning is really the expansion of the range of frequency that humanity can process through the different senses, right? So we have the five senses. Our senses are expanding. That equipment is becoming more refined to process these faster wave bands. And so that means, again, as you mentioned, higher telepathic ability, remote viewing. Those are things that are going to be second nature to us, and they're a must for our new model of survival, which is a unified consciousness model. Because imagine if you were to feel all my thoughts, know everything that I'm thinking and knowing, you can't hide anything from each other. And we've kind of incrementally been moving through that by becoming more empathic. See, 20 years ago, the word empathy was just becoming empathic, right? With the empath had become such a big thing. And that's for a reason. That was the beginning of the activation of that transition point. So now we are truly becoming into a new advanced civilization, which will be based on telepathic communication, that unified consciousness where we have one mind and we move collectively with that mind. And that requires a lot of, a lot of integration of ego, of separate ideas and concepts, identities. All of those systems have to kind of gently dissolve to enter into this new octave, as to speak.
I love the way you're describing it, because you're bringing it alive for me, even as I look around and look at the field. And I find it really exciting. Like so many of the things that we were told couldn't exist are really existing. And I think since 2020, I've noticed that people are speeding up. And I've noticed that you talked about people's memories are returning. The memories of what has been hidden since 2020 has been astounding. And I kind of liken it to the fact that COVID was first called Corona, which is light going viral. And I think that somehow there was an awakening that began at that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's exciting to see. My memories are coming back. I know that other people's are. So I know that, to shift the conversation a little bit, I know that you do a lot of DNA reprogramming. And when I grew up, we were told that you have just a certain amount of DNA and that's it. The rest of them are forgotten, they're lost, they don't matter. I don't know why DNA wouldn't matter, but they're unimportant. And now you have actually found ways to reprogram the DNA, which originally we were told could never be touched or changed. So can we talk a little bit about that? What inspired you? What have you created? What have you noticed? What happens?
Yeah, so basically, the blueprint of our DNA, which is, of course, it's massive amounts of information. You have 144 potential gene informations that are available to you in the body. We are only operating from a very, very tiny percentage of that, right? It's really just 2%. That creates all of the information that puts this physical body together, the bones. It's basically instructions on how we're going to create this physical body. But what we're talking about here is not rewriting the base architecture of your physical body, but we're talking about the etheric aspect of your DNA, which is holographic. And so we operate on a holographic system in which information is transmitted through the bioelectrical field. It's an electrical system. And so through epigenetics, which is basically all the external information that is shifting and moving, all of this information that processes the physical actions psychologically, emotionally, physically, biochemically, really important, because your biochemical system is the emotional system, which is also the bioelectrical system that creates charges of emotional input into the creation of this construct. Let's say the matrix, our daily lives, our everyday choices, how we interact with people, what we do. So imagine that you, as being the source of all of your life experiences, everything emerges. It's a holographic projection from that. And what is the database of all those beliefs and actions and choices that you're making? It's all a projection of what's in your DNA. Because the majority of us, we are merely repeating ancestral programming that is both psychological, emotional, and physical for centuries. I mean, our ancestral lineage is everything that we're repeating. And so once we become aware of that, we realize that most of our lives until we wake up, it's just a repeating of what our ancestors have been doing, their limitations, their fears, their good traits as well. And so we inherit way more than we understand. And so in the awakening process, in the alchemical process, as you become aware of those programs that you're running, it can be even eating habits. This is affecting your health. It's affecting psychology. It's affecting your ability to manifest, to have wealth even. You know, all of these elements of your physical life is contributed by these behaviors. And so you can reprogram that. And there's many layers to that. The most long sustaining way to reprogram that is through the emotions. In the deep subconscious layers. Because if you look at what are the patterns that you're passing down to generations into the subconscious level, and you alchemize that, let's say an emotion of fear and inability to feel worthy, the change of that would be to embody worthiness. And that's a frequency because everything is energy. And so in the body, the difference between that biologically, biochemically, it's a huge difference. You're processing different chemicals in the body to feel worthy. You have different psychological patterns, neural pathways that are being reinforced by the repetition of worthy behaviors, thoughts, expressions. You know, so this is how we are changing the core base of what we're working with. And if you can imagine that if you continue to transmute those limiting beliefs over and over again, you change essentially how you're inputting and outputting frequency, emotional data through the DNA, through that blueprint of information. And you can heal illnesses. You can become a manifester, a very powerful manifester, because there's an entire alchemical process to this, that your body being this toroidal energy system, it begins to move more fluidly, because those ancestral belief systems that are stagnant and limiting are actually contracting the full expression of DNA. This is scientifically proven by the Heart Math Institute, that when we're in states of stress and anxiety, our DNA starts to coil and crumble up. It can barely express itself fully. But when the human begins to meditate or connect or calm, the DNA can actually expand in its full expression. And we have availability to all of that is potential in your DNA. So, you know, there's a biological, psychological, energetic, biochemical response to this transformational process. And imagine that if the human begins to embody higher octave belief systems, our DNA becomes in its full expression. And the result of that is a high intuition, higher faculties, ability to discern on a higher level, to the point that we can even access abilities like Jedis, you know, like in Star Wars, we talked about the Jedis with the ability to have mental power over your physicality. You can heal your body, you can move things in your environment, you can change things, even what you're speaking with people. You can affect a lot of things. And it's a very powerful tool that has been hidden in the ancient mystery schools, which we're using now. And so scientifically, this is, it's been used as wave repatterning. So when we look at wave genetics and how you change the syntax of DNA into a vibrational language, we're doing the same through verbal, psychological, emotional, vibrational changes. And that's basically what we're doing in the DNA reprogramming when we alchemize a belief system. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that was quite an explanation, and it makes so much sense to me. So you're saying that as we change our behavior and our thoughts, the universe is going to respond back by greater gifts, more expression, more ability to manifest. So that's and that goes along with, you know, positive thinking and affirmations of, what you think about is what you're going to get back.
Yeah,
so it takes it more advanced.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the universe, basically, we are the universe. Every single human is an entire universe. And so the activation of DNA, literally, what it does to you in the body is that you begin to expand your range of vision of frequencies. So humans, we have a certain range of colors and light that we can process and see. That's everything that's in the visible realm. But what happens is that you begin to expand that range into higher frequencies. So you begin to see ghosts, you begin to see interdimensionally, you begin to recover memory, as you mentioned, because one of the things that Dr. Michael Levin, for those of you that are interested in looking at some of those research papers, and you can visit my website to access that information, has brought to us is the concept of the morphogenetic field as being a bioelectrical system of memory. And so as we begin to expand our emotions into higher octave emotions, we're also expanding the range of frequency that we can see, visible light. And it allows us to see beyond the veil interdimensionally, and that is also equating to the memory that we can access. So we begin to remember our past lives. We begin to remember, in the Akashic records, future aspects of ourselves, interdimensional contact. So, of course, I work also with hybrid mother contactees, and it's the same. You're merging. You go down the spiritual rabbit hole, you're going to meet the question of consciousness, and it's the same with ET contact. And so we're having a lot of parallels with the activation of this work, that you begin to recover those memories, that you're way more than just this human body and this physical life. And so there's a very, very real psychological, biological changes that happen. And to end this part, we're basically creating a Merkaba, which is an energy structure in the body that is moving faster. And so we talk about orbs and light structures that we see. We literally are becoming this vessel that navigates interdimensionally, consciously, and remembers lucidly. We become lucid navigators. And that is the sign of the activation of DNA. So the activation of DNA results in that ability.
All right. That sounds amazing. And it goes along with a lot of what I've been reading about our new ideas about consciousness, that our thoughts create this world around us. Mm-hmm. Which has really been an expansion of everything for me to understand that, for me to begin to realize that and to see that. So this is actually very fascinating to me, with the work that you're doing with DNA and why and how it helps. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. And one of the things that I'm going to be talking about on the cruise, for example, is that we're going to go back to the origins of, the ancient mystery schools, which is so exciting because I've had many lives there. I've had many lives being a scribe and also a teacher in the Library of Alexandria. I've been in Delphi as one of the seers. So, in the ancient mystery schools, there were many, many occult practices that were hidden. They were very powerful esoteric practices that have been wiped from history when the Christian church started to take over and all the religions started to take over the information. But in the ancient mystery schools, we would practice the activation of walking lucid in waking state in order to enter into trance-like states, so you can become and remember your current multidimensional lives, essentially. And with the story of Persephone, for example, where she's taken into the underworld. What is the underworld? The underworld is representing the deep subconscious. It's representing that entire ocean of the subconscious mind that is available to us. And so all of those stories of Persephone and in the history of those temples, we basically, it was the origin of alchemical practices, these esoteric alchemical practices of entering into the darkest shadows of our subconscious and alchemizing, going through the Negretto process, right, of the alchemy, where we go into the deep darkness, and then from there we emerge a light. We are reborn with this full memory, full capacity. And so that's something that, all of the ancient wisdom of the people that have reached those abilities would be utilized to see. They became the seers of the society. And a lot of them were women. Women are the direct connection to the divine. and they were, they had all kinds of practices, even sexual practices of sexual alchemy, where we would alchemize sexual energy into pure consciousness to access the higher states of awareness. And so these are practices that are necessary to come back now, because we are ready in terms of the universal frequencies that are allowing the opening of those worlds to us. And so we have to prepare in order to be able to speak that energetic dialogue. And so, some of these ancient practices, which are, of course, resulting in meditation, alchemical practices, and entering into trance-like states, but not with psychedelics or any kind of external stimulation, just naturally creating that alchemical DMT that allows you to access that vision. And that's basically DNA activation, what we're talking about, just everything that we were just talking about. So all of these ancient practices are coming to the surface right now because they're deeply, deeply needed for the rise and the creation of this new society. Before, we went through this cycle back in those ancient times. And so the birthing of a new society is one that is deeply connected to these intuitive capacities of mankind and working in natural order, in harmonic order with the earth. So we're kind of coming back to that, and I'm very excited to go on this cruise to revisit these lands, because whenever you go to these different places of the planet, you're activating the grid lines of the earth, which is activation of memory. And so whoever feels called to travel to these places, you need to listen to that call, because there's an activation for you. It's because the earth is a very conscious living organism, it's an extension of us. So, it's just a very beautiful opportunity for us to do that.
Wow. So I think that's amazing, number one, because it's a mystery school cruise. And I know when I started working intensely with Neil a few years ago, we really came to see that Portal to Ascension was this mystery school that had been around for centuries, for a long time, carrying these ancient mysteries. And Greece, when I went to Greece last time, spent a lot of time at Delphi, memories coming back. I've had lots of dreams of Delphi. And I think going to Greece for most of us reactivates these memories that have been long disappeared. So I was sitting here going, oh my God, I'm going to have to sit in her presentation on the ship. I'm going to have to watch your work, because you're activating the experience for everyone as we go through it. And it's so important to have those memories coming back.
That's right. Yes.
In all ways. Yeah.
Yeah, it's important because you come more in alignment with your gifts, is what happens when you have those memories. You remember the many karmic limitations that you've had in the past. Right. A lot of people that are, especially here on these channels watching, they're pretty high ascended masters for many lifetimes, and there was always one little thing that blocked this full connection. And so in this lifetime, we repeat lives until we remember fully. And so, everything that we can do to recover that memory is always going to help you in your path, and to live more in peace, more connected, more in harmony with what you're supposed to be doing here. And so, the world is changing. We are going through a split in humanity where we have the potential of going down the path of a transhumanist society. The opposite of that is a highly advanced civilization that is using natural technology, which is always going to be more advanced than artificial technology. And so this is the cultivation of that organic technology. It's the higher faculties, the healing abilities. We have the power to heal ourselves. And those are things that we have to learn. We have to remember.
That's so interesting. You're so right about the separation of humanity, and that these are the tools we need going in, and that we were born for this. This has actually been preordained, that these are the times for which we were born, and that we are going to activate that. Now, I remember about 10 years, I had this dream that I was walking on water. I was sort of escaping, and I was walking on water, and it was so easy. It was just so easy to walk on water until the moment I said, oh, I'm walking on water. And even in my dream, the moment I said that, I sank. I didn't sync, but I didn't hold that. And I found that very interesting because to me, it meant that, yes, I'm capable of walking on water when those memories return and the confidence returns. And that's another advanced step.
Yeah.
Is that, and also coming back, maybe not dying. Maybe instead of dying, you leave your body in another way.
Yeah.
Many possibilities. Yes.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's really interesting what you share. I think one of the things that we are also learning as we're becoming more multidimensional is to not to define things, or to become defined by our experiences fully, precisely, because as soon as you define it, as you can see, you named it, and it's like you sank there, but it's being in the unknown, in that constant unknown, that is the key. And that's something that we're learning through our nervous system, because we have been brainwashed that control or identity and limitation is the safety for you. And what this new society is calling is to let go of identities, let go of attachments, let go of definitions, because what you are is way more expansive than even you can fathom, because it's not been designed in this construct yet. And that's how we pull in the higher octave. To be able to see yourself as more than anything that's been defined is the key to freedom and liberation and free will. And that's really important. It's important for humanity.
Right. And it's the key to exiting the matrix.
Yeah.
In many ways. Yes. I love this. So this is all the work that you've been doing recently, which is huge. So you're training the next generation of Jedi masters who are coming in almost already knowing their gifts. It seems like to me, many of them, with the right guidance.
That's right. There's a lot of, there's been many, the children, of course, are coming at this higher octave. Every time you are born in these new energies, you come already with that capacity, that memory available to you. So we kind of had to catch up to these kids because they're already operating at a whole different level. And for some people, we want to hold on to the old system. We really do. We want to, because it's safe. It feels known. Right now, there's a lot of global turmoil with the changes and transitions that are happening, because it's very necessary for old systems to crumble. And so we're going to go through a pretty difficult 2026, because this is the beginning of a transition point that will really push quickly into the next level of how we need to prepare. In 2027 to 2035, we will begin to seed and embody this new society. So this year is very important for the preparation and the recovering of that memory of what you are, and your gifts, as you mentioned, your powers. Mm-hmm.
So it's like the energy, and it's a 1 year, so which is creativity, new beginnings. It's like the beginning of that whole new cycle.
Yes.
Which explains why this last cycle was pretty tough.
Yes.
This last year for so many people was really, really tough, because they have to let go. So much of this we were never taught. We were never allowed to even think about. And to me, it's like an example of how the matrix is crumbling as people become more aware of their self-identity.
That's right.
And their potential. So this is kind of interesting. So tell me then, how would trauma, so I know you work with a lot of trauma-based people, how does that trauma interfere then, because I'm thinking it's huge, interfere with their growth and their ability to reprogram their DNA and to go into the state of expansion and memory?
Yeah. So trauma, really, let's define trauma. Trauma is any time that you may not have known how to respond in a circumstance. So that can literally be anything. It can be someone giving you a funny look, and then you, in that moment, not being sure of what you feel, and then having this disassociation with what should be acted, or how one should act in that moment. So that disassociation is a split in the energetic field. Okay. And these little splits, they become reference points, energetic reference points. The vibrational frequency of this split becomes very dense over time. It's a very slow moving frequency, and that becomes a point in your energy field, in the morphogenic field. Now, the funny thing is that this energetic split, the fact that you in that moment didn't know or felt or believed that you didn't know how to respond or didn't remember that you had the ability to respond in that moment. This is a learned pattern that is passed ancestrally. So again, this pattern is already in the DNA because more than likely you're repeating the same thing mom and dad may have done. Okay. And so the becoming aware of that trauma that we call it, is becoming aware of who are you underneath all that programming. And so you're basically peeling the layers like an onion of all the layers of that have been programmed, the beliefs of everything that you believe were limiting you, to see that pure divine essence of yourself. And that's really all that we're doing. The alchemization of trauma is more about deprogramming beliefs, false belief systems, matrix belief systems, than seeing who is that core essence. And that core essence is innately divine, it is pure, it is whole, and it remembers everything. And we have that within us all the time. It's accessible to us. It doesn't matter what you've experienced in your life. That is an essence that can never be erased or removed from you. And so this process is really about, letting that aspect of yourself emerge. And so, and it's a very refined process of allowing your true self. You need to not fear judgment. One of the strongest elements in trauma is judgment, because, and this has been deeply ingrained to us, even with the emergence of religion, by the way, where shame and guilt of your pure divinity was inverted in such a way, right? So we begin to look at natural parts of the body, natural parts of our expression, natural emotions, natural responses as taboo, as something impure. So we are literally having to invert those wrong concepts of ourselves. And that is where we begin to find the whole self. The whole self includes everything. It includes positive, negative aspects, even the parts that we perceive as the filthiest or dirtiest or impurest parts of us are part of your full divinity. And so until we learn to see those parts as with divine eyes, to see that as divinity, we will always feel traumatized in some way by something, from someone, somehow, because we are believing that we are this impurity. And so I think part of that frequency and the elevation into the higher octave, as we talked about, is what does the world look like if we would all see ourselves as that divine self? And so this is the society that we need to help build. And it becomes very transparent, very open energy exchange, not fearful, not contractive. And so we need to relearn that. And, that's kind of programmed in our nervous system and our biochemical systems, because we've also become addicted to pain. We've become addicted to suffering. We become addicted to trauma, because it's become little masks that we wear that we believe protect us, And so in this new society, protection is about full, authentic expansion. And that is going to feel very vulnerable, but will no longer be fragile. There's a big difference. When we are traumatized, in fear, and contracted, we're actually very fragile. It's actually very easily to become destroyed. But when you find that subtle internal self that is that divine self, it's incredibly powerful because it's all and nothing at the same time. And so nothing can touch that. Nothing can destroy that, not even death, as you mentioned. You simply transmute energy in every dimension, whether you see a draconian, reptilian, or whatever you're encountering. You can move through these aspects of your own self very fluidly. So, it's just, as we move into a higher octave of this universe, we're moving into a higher octave of consciousness, higher octave psychologically, higher octave emotionally. So there's many things that are kind of transitioning in that way.
And we're leaving a lot behind, which is interesting. We're leaving behind fragmented selves, lost identity, shame, fear. And even as you were mentioning that, even that word gave me a little pit in my stomach. And I realized that we all have to really deal with that as we move up, because we can't take that with us. But it's very, very exciting then that you're able to take people and help them change at like a cellular structure, at a cellular level,
Yes, thank you.
which is quite astounding to me. I mean, I know that you do that, but I find it quite actually miraculous. Okay, that you can take someone and go back to the cell structure and change them from the inside out, from their DNA, and help reboot their life that way.
Yeah. Well,
But
everything is cellular, really. I mean, everything comes down to that blueprint from which everything is emerging, but yes.
we spent some time together in Mount Shasta a few years ago. I remember this. And, I was really learning a lot of things. And you actually said something to me that blew me away. You said, Jim, the whole universe is in your head. It's really not outside you. You're having contact. It's inside here. It's not like they're sitting out there walking up to you. You're having it all in here. And I still sit with that because to me, that's huge. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's really interesting. We talk about this toroidal field that we are. We are actually a toroidal field of energy, and we have many toroidal fields. Every single one of those toroidal fields is a chakra. It's a vortex, an energy vortex that creates a toroidal system. And so these are dimensional portals through our body. And how we enter them is through the DNA, precisely. Okay, so the more DNA you activate, the more you have access to enter into these dimensional portals through your own body. Your body is essentially the entire universe. And, many of the ancient mystery schools talk about this in many different ways. We have the ancient Taoist writings and scriptures of ancient Chinese medicine and the mapping of meridian lines that are connected to different planetary systems. Those are much more, esoteric studies of ancient traditional Chinese medicine. And in India, of course, the chakra systems connecting to the planetary system, the Mayans with their calendar and the organs and the time of the clocks, the biological clock, right? And so every ancient civilization has had the reference to the biological clock of the body, which is merging and connecting and intercommunicating with the sun and our solar system, and then beyond that. So in the same way, as we clean up the gunk in these energy systems, which is, again, those onion layers of programming, we find the pure essence, which is all. And that pure essence has the ability to navigate through this system. And in the Taoist, we call it the microcosmic orbit, which is we can move life force through the spine, up into the pineal gland, back down again. And what is that interdimensionally is that you're moving through all the planets. Every chakra is a planet. And you recover the memories of your lives and your connections to those planets. You recover the memories as being those planets, even on the sun. Because through our plasma, we're communicating with the sun all the time. We're communicating. And so women, especially, they have their menstrual cycles. In a month, we are moving through that. It's the cycle of creation. That's how we give birth to life on this planet as well. So the more we begin to activate DNA, recover that memory, you can access the seventh and the eighth chakra. The seventh is your crown, which is the connection to the higher self, which is also the gateway to the DNA of the planet Earth and beyond at different levels. The Akashic records of the Earth is one layer, and then the eighth is the Akashic records of the universe and beyond. So in dream state, every single night when we're dreaming, we leave the body and we will travel through this energy system in order to access those memories. And how much work you're doing to peel those layers and to clean up your energy system, the higher you can travel. And so this is where ET contact comes in, right? Because you begin to meet aspects outside of you, of these beings, of other celestial aspects. This is your DNA. You're traveling your DNA. You're navigating your ancestral DNA beyond the terrestrial ancestry, which is, let's say, Pleiadian, for example, Arcturian, Andromedan, you name it. Whatever it is that you gravitate towards and you navigate and you recall, that's in your DNA frequency. So in a sense, this is how the portal to the universe is not a physical construct. It is actually within the collective subconscious. It's a field of information, of frequency variations that we gain access to through our work. And so, when we talk about ET contact, a lot of people talk about this external aspect, but in reality, there is no contact, ET contact, that can be done without a certain vibrational preparation and frequency resonance. It's all about resonance. And that's something that we see very clearly in CE5s, for example, right? You have 100 people, only 50 people see the very giant craft that is there because they're at that frequency, okay? And so there was also that interview of that disclosure gentleman, I forget his name right now, that talked about how he felt such profound love and the memories and the emotions of love as he approached this craft, this ball, this orb that he connected to. That's something that's very common in ET contact. And even though we experience the technology as we think it's going to be mechanical, we're talking about geometrical structures of information that are quite biological technology that we're connecting to through frequency. And so that's something that, you learn as a navigator. And it's something that's been practiced since the beginning of time. We have so many depictions of ET contact through history, from the cave drawings to, Renaissance paintings, angelic manifestations of consciousness. The universe is within you. So,
right. That was a great explanation of that, Geraldine. Yes, the universe is within us because a lot of this contact happens when your eyes are closed, when you're in your dream or you're in a vision. And so it's not external to us, which is quite amazing because it makes me really think a lot about this. So I heard Barbara Lamb one day talked about the day a huge ET actually walked physically into her home.
yeah.
And how surprising that was. Took a deep breath. And most of us who have had contact, I haven't had contact necessarily with an extraterrestrial walking. Like when I opened my eyes, I haven't seen it. I guess we can put it that way. So
Yeah.
It's been more internal.
Well, yeah. I mean, I want to be clear because I think what happens is that we need to understand what is physical, right? Because our concept of physicality tends to be finite and tends to be, a static object that is touched.
Right. Like someone said, this is the person right here. I can touch him. Right.
But even that person sitting next to you is a vibrational frequency. You're still in resonance with them in order to be at that density where you can touch and feel and connect with them. And this can be true with these interdimensional beings as well. If you are at that frequency, they will feel physical and real, just like in my experience as well. So it's not that they're not physical. We need to change our understanding of what physicality is,
right.
Because everything is really energy. It's holographic energy. That's what I mean.
I think when I started working with angels, they really explained to me that I needed to raise my vibration to go deeper into contact with them. And I think the bottom line is that kind of what you're explaining about. I think this has been really fascinating, just really fascinating. So what message would you leave for everyone out here who's awakening to these their multidimensional self?
Yeah, I think one of the key elements, and it's true for what we're going through right now as well, is to understand that whatever you believe you are, you need to revisit your beliefs of what you think you are, because it will manifest even more than ever, quickly and strongly in the physical. Okay, so when we talk about ET contact, The moment that you begin to embody fear is when you drop in frequency. And if you don't understand energetic hygiene, you're very porous in your frequency. And so all your life force becomes centrifugal. It depletes, it's depleted from you. So you can take on all kinds of little parasites and all kinds of things that deplete your energy, even see and encounter beings that are scary, seemingly scary or lower frequency. So there's nothing to fear because nothing can destroy you except yourself. And that's another very deep term that's very hard for a lot of people to understand. Your beliefs either create you or they destroy you. So you have to have a lot of will and deep understanding of your power to understand that regardless of what you're encountering, whether it's a human that is in suffering and pain and doing evil things, or it's an interdimensional being, it's the same. The mastery of your embodiment in your frequency will guide you through that without being harmed in any way. And so that's very key. And so that requires, the regulation of your nervous system. It requires the really deep embodiment of self-love and understanding how to move your toroidal field by cleaning up all that gunk that you might be holding in your energy body. So energetic hygiene, super important. Working in that way.
And so tell us a little bit about how you help people navigate it.
Yeah. So, well, I'm teaching from the inside out, the biological, bioelectrical, biochemical aspect of it, and then the psychological, right? So there's two parts. I say the energy and the psychological, emotional. The deepest way to reprogram is through the emotional body. Do that because that's the complete transmutation of your programs. The other way to work with it is energetically. And you can have the same results, but you do need to believe in yourself and you need to understand and believe energy, right? So you can move a block out of your energy body. You can see a dark spot here, and that's a manifestation of a fear that you've had at 5 years old. You clear that out, and all of a sudden you begin to change your perception about how you see fear and how you embody fear. So there's many ways to work with it, but we're working on all of those layers. And the invitation is that you be very present every moment of your day so that you can be aware of when these things come into play and you can move them through the body quickly. All the major initiates of all these ancient mystery schools, it's about the mastery of your life force and the cultivation of that life force. And the more that you can move your energy, that toroidal field fluidly, you become invincible to anything that may be perceived as danger. So I teach through DNA reprogramming, through hypnotherapy, using all these different kinds of tools that you can learn. And I teach a lot of it on my YouTube at Geraldine Orozco. So you can check that out if that's interesting. Yeah.
Very profound, Geraldine. Very, very profound. So I love what you're going to be doing on the cruise, because I see how aligned that is with Greece. And guys, if you have not gotten your ticket, if you can join us, we would love to have you. It's going to be phenomenal. I can already tell. And your presence on it is going to bring in a lot of, I think, DNA activations for everyone. So what will you be teaching at the New Living Expo then, which is a few weeks after the Greek cruise?
Yeah, so exciting. So I'm going to be talking about a really amazing project that I've been working on, studying the morphogenetic field, the biology of that, and the cultivation of life force. So I'm going to be diving really deep into it. I've been working on a certain project with that, and I'll just be sharing everything that I'm discovering through that. What we're finding about brainwave changes when we come into higher states of consciousness, and intuition, and what brainwave look like when you tap into your intuition. How are you embodying that? Basically, it's the sacred biology, spiritual biology of intuition. What does that look like, and how do we activate that? So I'm really excited to share that with all of you, and it's going to be a fun time.
I'm really excited to see you both on the cruise and at the New Living Expo. Guys, really check it out. I think that chance to hear Geraldine in person is a great experience. just so you all know, and to meet the whole team, the whole mystery school team. We'll be sure to awaken up your memories. As waking up mine, just talking to you, by the way, wakens up a lot of my memories already. And 2026 is the time. This
Yes.
is exactly the time for which all of us were born and are being asked to step into that best version of ourself now,
That's
of
right.
which you are showing us how to embody it. Very happy about that, Geraldine.
Thank you
Is there
so much.
anything else you want to leave us with?
No, I'm excited and I can't wait to see what you're going to be talking about and connecting with you as well. So thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor to be here.
It's definitely an honor to have you. It's been a very profound hour, I think. I love talking about consciousness, the DNA, and human potential, and how your work's evolved over the last few years. Very good work. Good, just amazing. So, everyone else, I want to thank you all for watching, for being here, for supporting our mission, for supporting Portal to Ascension, and all of our speakers, of Geraldine. And really thank you for being part of the planetary awakening. I think that's the most important thing. And you can join us at the New Living Expo. You can join us at the cruise, and you can always join us online. So we'd love to have you explore more about Portal to Ascension and all of us. So if today's conversation has activated something deep inside of you, I also invite you to work with Geraldine and also to check me out and my free soul vision consultations. Check it out at Joan of Angels. I'm Dr. Joan of Angels. And remember, expect miracles because you were born for this. We'll see you all next time. Thank you for joining us. And